Hi, and welcome to part 1 of C++ interview questions and answers from careerlight.com. Why does code bloating occur in C++? Improper use of inline functions and templates may cause code bloating. Multiple inheritance may also lead to code bloating. Tell us something about realloc. Realloc is a subroutine that changes the size of the block of memory pointed to by the pointer parameter to the number of bytes specified by the size parameter. It returns a new pointer to the block. The pointer specified by the pointer parameter must be created with malloc, calloc or realloc subroutines and should not be deallocated with the free or realloc subroutines. Undefined results show up if the pointer parameter is not a valid pointer. Explain function overloading. The capability of C++ to define several functions of the same name with different sets of parameters is called function overloading. While calling an overloaded function, the C++ compiler selects the proper function by examining the number, types, and order of the arguments. Function overloading is commonly used to create several functions of the same name that perform similar tasks but on different data types. Explain operator overloading. When the existing C++ operators are redefined to work on objects of user-defined classes, it is called as operator overloading. Overloaded operators form a pleasant facade which improve the understandability and reduce maintenance costs without adding any fundamental to the language. Explain auto storage class in C++. This is the default storage class in C++. Variables in this class are automatically created and initialized when they are defined. These variables are then destroyed at the end of the block containing their definition. They are not visible outside that block. What is register? This is a type of auto variable. It gives a suggestion to the compiler to use a CPU register for performance. What is static variable? A variable that is known only in the function that contains its definition. It is never destroyed and retains its value between calls to that function. Tell us something about extern. This is a static variable. Its definition and placement is defined when all objects and library modules are combined to form the executable code file. It can be visible outside the file where it is defined. Why do you use the namespace feature? Multiple providers of libraries might use common global identifiers, causing a name collision when an application tries to link with two or more such libraries. The namespace feature surrounds a library's external declarations with a unique namespace that eliminates the potential for those collisions. It identifies and assigns a name to a declarative region. Explain overriding. Overriding a method means replacing a method functionality in child class. To override a method, a subclass of the class that originally declared the method must declare a method with the same name, return type, and same parameter list. How are virtual functions implemented in C++? Virtual functions are implemented using a table of function pointers. It is called the V table. There exists one entry in the table per virtual function in the class. The table is created by the constructor of the class. When a derived class is constructed, its base class is constructed first. This creates the V table. The derived class may override some of the base class's virtual functions. Such entries in the V table are overwritten by the derived class constructor. It is for this reason the virtual functions should not be called from a constructor. What happens when you make a call delete this? There are two things that might happen here. One, if it executes in a member function for an extern, static or automatic object, the program will probably crash as soon as the delete statement gets executed. 2. When an object finishes like this, the program using it might not know about this end. In an instantiating program, the object remains in scope and continues to exist even after it is finished. Subsequent dereferencing of the pointer can cause disaster. There is something about copy constructor. A copy constructor constructs a new object by using the content of the argument object. Copy constructor invoke in cases such as creation and initialization of an object simultaneously. When an object is passed to a function by value. When an object is returned from a function by value. What are the different areas of a program memory? The memory a program uses is divided into 4 areas. 1. The code area. This is where the compiled program sits in the memory. 2. The global area. This is the place where global variables are stored. The heap. The place where dynamically allocated variables are allocated from. The stack. The place where parameters and local variables are allocated from. Explain deep copy. Deep copy involves using the contents of one object to create another instance of the same class. Here, the two objects may contain the same information, but the target object will have its own buffers and resources. The destruction of either object will not affect the remaining object. Explain shallow copy. It involves copying the contents of one object into another instance of the same class. This creates a mirror image. The two objects share the same externally contained contents of the other object to be unpredictable. This happens because of the straight copying of references and pointers. Explain friend class. When a class declares another class as its friend, it gives complete access to all its data and methods, including private and protected data and methods to the friend class member methods. Friendship does not necessarily be bidirectional. If A declares B as its friend, it does not imply that A can access private data of B. It only means that B can access all data of A. Explain the scope resolution operator. A scope resolution operator is used to define the member functions of a class outside the class. Mostly, a scope resolution operator is required when a data member is redefined by a derived class or an overridden method of the derived class wants to call the base class version of the same method. List the advantages of inheritance. Inheritance permits code reusability. Reusability saves time in program development. It encourages the reuse of proven and debugged high-quality software, which reduces the problems after a system becomes functional. What do templates do? Templates enable creation of generic functions that admit any data type as parameters and return value without having to overload the function with all the possible data types unless they fulfill the functionality of a macro. Explain RTTI. RTTI stands for Runtime Type Identification. It lets you find the dynamic type of an object when you have only a pointer or a reference to the base type. It is the official way in standard C++ to discover the type of an object and to convert the type of a pointer or reference. Differentiate between a copy constructor and an assignment operator. A copy constructor is used to declare and initialize an object from another object, while an assignment operator does not invoke the copy constructor. It simply assigns the values of an object to another, member by member. What is a stack? How can it be implemented? A stack is a linear data structure which is a collection of homogeneous elements but where insertion and deletion operations take place at one end only, called top of the stack. Stack is also known as LIFO, that is last in first out structure, as the element which is inserted in the last will be the first element to come out of the stack. It can be implemented by using a linear array containing stack size locations along with an integer variable top, storing the index of the topmost element in the stack. What are the various operations performed on a stack? The various operations which can be performed on a stack are create empty. This creates an empty stack by initializing top to -1. Is empty. It determines whether stack is empty or not. It returns value 1 if the stack is empty, otherwise it returns 0. Push. Adding a new element at the top of the stack is called push. Pop. Removing an element from the top of the stack is called pop. How can a new element be added or pushed into a stack? Whenever an element is to be pushed into a stack, top is increased by 1 and then the element is inserted in the linear array at the location with index top. During push operation, a stage may come when top points to the last location in array. That is, it becomes equal to stack size -1. Now, no more elements can be pushed into the stack and we call it stack overflow. Explain queue. How can it be implemented? A queue is a linear data structure which is a collection of homogeneous elements where insertion and deletion occurs at different ends. The end where insertion takes place is called rear and the end where deletion takes place is called front. Queue is also known as FIFO, that is first in, first out, because the element which is inserted first will be the first one to come out of the queue. Queue can be implemented by array implementation of stack and 2. Linked list implementation of stack. What are the 4 partitions in which C++ compiler divides the RAM? The C++ compiler divides the RAM into stack area, program code area, global variable section and heap area or free storage pool. Explain static and dynamic memory allocation. When the amount of memory to be allocated is known at the time of compilation, it is known as static memory allocation. Once the memory is allocated statically, it cannot be deallocated during program run, which causes wastage of storage space. When the amount of memory to be allocated is not known beforehand, rather it is determined at the time of program run, it is called dynamic memory allocation. It leads to efficient utilization of storage space. What is function prototyping? What are its advantages? Function prototyping is a function declaration statement that tells the compiler about the return type of the function and the number as well as type of arguments required by the function at the time of calling it. The advantages of function prototype are: it helps the compiler in determining whether a function is called correctly or not. Each time when a function is called, its calling statement is compared with its prototype. In case of any mismatch, compiler reports an error. A function must be defined before calling it, but prototyping allows a function to be called before defining it.